indicating that we're recording?
Yes.
Oh, there it is. Okay. Thank you. Sorry.
So it's too bad John Kumbler's not here, because last Wednesday, Doug and I got in the car and went back out to the property on Way, I never
60.
remember the way.
60.
Way
Way
60.
60.
And we happened to find the property owner there on that particular day. So after much research through the files, it appears as though the letters were going to an incorrect address. And so I spoke with the owner, and I let him know that the shed was in violation. And he was rather upset because he didn't know that it was in violation, and he wouldn't have bought the house had he known he couldn't have the shed. And the shed is in the driveway, and it's partially on the foundation. And to make a long story short, we then sent him the letter and the appropriate filing. And so he is going to try to get that all together and get that back to us. You know, and we had a long talk about it, because he said, well, is the commission going to approve this? And I said, I don't know until you get before them. And he was feeling rather remorseful, and he was upset that he didn't know. So we went through that whole discussion of, well, when you own a property in such a sensitive area, it really is incumbent upon you, the property owner, to understand where your piece of property is and what you need to do when you want to construct things, build things, move things. And so he understands he's going to be in some trouble, and he's moving forward. So I thought that was good progress, and I was excited to share it with John, and he's not here. It was actually the most successful part of my day that particular day. So, and probably the most enjoyable, to get some like sense of normalcy back in my life. So I was thrilled to actually find someone on site to talk to about something that's not COVID related. So
I'm sorry that was the highlight of your day.
Yeah.
I know. It sounds so sad, but it made me feel like successful in a weird way. So it was good.
Hillary, following up on that, did we set a date with Mr. Way of 40 Hiawatha as to when he needs to get in his notice of intent? Because I started thinking about it, and I started getting concerned, because remember, something had been filed on this property in 2017, 2018, yeah. And then nothing done. And then all of a sudden they did the work, and then they came, you know, after the fact. And I wanted to be sure that years were not going to go by again.
So why don't we check back? I have not heard from him since the hearing. Let's not lose sight of it, and I'll put a note in my calendar to check back in a month with him. Okay, and if we don't have anything concrete, then we can start issuing him non-criminal citations for the work that's done without permit. So
right. What I might suggest is that a letter go out to him telling him he is required to go ahead and file for an NOI, and that we anticipate that's going to be filed in the next month, and that if he doesn't file it, he will be subject to the citations. Because
yeah,
I just don't want any issue of years going by again.
But won't he be subject to citations anyway?
Yes, but I'm just trying to be absolutely fair.
Different type of citation. Okay.
He's subject to the post-filing citation, but this is the $300 a day for non-compliance.
Okay, so we need to make sure that that's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Good. All right, then.
That was one thing. I think I was still talking.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. The other thing is the contract with Horsley Witten was signed by the town administrator on Tuesday. So they're going to be reaching out to us to schedule a time to come and talk and a kickoff meeting. Do we want to try and do that maybe at 10 in the morning of our next meeting instead of going on site visits? Because it seems like you guys are like site visiting on your own. So that would be Wednesday, September 2nd at 10 a.m. if that works for them, and if that works for us, I don't know.
Not going to work for me.
Oh,
okay.
Either.
Okay. Do we want to try and dedicate our whole business meeting to that matter, or?
That sounds good because that time's already slotted out, I think.
Yeah.
Or
Okay.
what if we started the business meeting at 3:30, so that if we had any additional business, we could handle that? Is that a problem?
I would stick to 4, just so, for me personally. I don't know what other folks need.
Yeah, 4 o'clock, there's just a lot going on for me, so 4 is better.
Okay, then we'll leave it at
And
4.
we've been finishing up
Oh, here he is.
4, 5, and we haven't been rushing at all. So we could move a little quicker if we had to.
Okay. That's perfect. Then I will get back to Nate and see if that works for him and his team. And hopefully we can get moving on that. So that's good.
Is there any reason that we should meet with the new TA to bring her up to speed about issues in town, or do you think she's already up to speed? Or, I mean, I know she has an environmental ecological background, but you know, especially the certain property that's under litigation and other things, is there any reason why we should meet with the TA, or maybe just push that off a little bit? Think about it.
Yeah, I'm thinking about it.
You don't have to just think about it now. You think about it later.
Hillary, have you had a chance to talk with her about all the exciting topics in town?
I met with her a couple weeks ago now, and we touched on a few interesting things, but not nearly all of the interesting things, because there's so many things of interest going on right now. So I imagine we'll have hours and hours of more conversation, you know, over the next month or two.
Yeah.
I can certainly let her know that the Conservation Commission is interested in maybe meeting her, if she could hop on to one of our Zoom calls just to say hello, maybe.
That'd be good.
And so you could introduce yourselves and
Hear about the DLTA and the changes in the bylaws and regulations.
Yeah, I talked briefly about that, and I also had to give the selectmen a little taste of it to get the contract signed. So yes, we can talk about that. I'm not sure we can talk about the other case.
Not in specifics, but just in general.
Yeah.
No.
But we can talk about, you know, other things that we do, or other things you're interested in, or, you know, find out about her background. And
yeah, it'd be good to meet her. This is unusual, but we can't. Yeah.
Hillary, we can talk about the public aspect of any litigation. We can't talk about what our lawyer has told us or what we've asked our lawyer.
I feel like maybe we should let counsel give the overview and just, you know, let that lie for a moment.
Okay.
And then, I guess the other thing isn't public. I was going to talk a little bit about the Friends of Herring River MET grant, but that's not public yet, but sorry.
Are you smiling or frowning? You don't have to.
No, I think it's great. Yeah, no. It's
Okay.
just not public information yet. So they'll be doing some press releasing and that sort of thing.
This is my private thumb.
Sorry, I'm not at liberty to talk about it.
My public thumb.
You didn't say a thing, just smiled. That's all we need.
Okay. And I think that might be all I have for right now. The DLTA, the Herring River, the success on Way 60.
What? I didn't hear that. What's that story?
Well, I know, because you were late, John.
I had trouble getting in.
Okay. Well, in any case, it was the biggest success of my week last week was going out on a site visit to Way 60 with Doug and finding the property owner home and being able to get him to come out and talk to us. And so I explained to him all about the violation. Turns out the letters were going to an address in New York where he did not live. And so he was completely unaware of the violation. So we talked all about the violation, all about his property and where it sits. And it was great. It was a moment of success. So he's coming. He's coming forward
after the fact.
He's coming forward with an after the fact filing, and we'll see it when he submits it. But we gave him the violation letter and the paperwork, so he's working on it.
Did you look at the area behind the house that
Yes.
is the wetland? Is there a problem with any of that?
No, that's all fine. It's just the shed that's sitting in the driveway that's the problem.
Okay.
And I guess, that whole property, I feel like we have a regulation that says if you subdivide a property after a particular date, everything must be in compliance with the Wetlands Protection Act and the local bylaw. And that particular case was very interesting because they developed the plans first and then subdivided the property. So I don't know how, but just food for thought as we move forward to redrafting our regulation, maybe some way to capture those things as well.
I'm not sure it's an issue, Hillary, because the shed didn't come till after the property was sold. So.
Oh, no, I'm not talking about the shed. I'm talking about the dwelling, because we wouldn't have permitted, like, if they had subdivided the property first,
right.
We wouldn't have permitted the dwelling. So, like, that's what I'm thinking. Like,
yeah,
it's kind of like skirting, like, they knew they were going to subdivide it because there was reference to a subdivision, but when we inquired about it, they said, no, we're not subdividing it. But there was a plan that had showed it. So, like, I don't know how we, I don't know if there's a way to think about that. I guess we just need to make our regulations stricter for, new construction in the buffer zone.
Yeah.
All right, then I sent to everyone an email I received from the select board on the new public access committee that's being developed. They're looking for members, and they gave the one nominated member's email in case anyone wanted to get in touch. If you're interested in applying, you would have to fill out an application, which is on the town website, and then appear before the board of select board. But you can see what the charge is for the new committee and determine whether or not you might be interested in joining that. I don't know if anybody is interested.
I might be. I have to think about it a little bit, but I think it's an important issue in town because I'm seeing more and more access being prohibited, or else people just making their own social trails to places, and that affects our work as well. So I might be, but I'm not raising my hand right now. I'll think about it a little bit.
Thank you, Barbara. Anyone else? It's a 5-person committee, so it's smaller. All right, then Hillary, do you want to talk about the Stantec proposal?
Yeah, so they are still working on the intersection there of Route 6 and Main Street. And I had a conversation with them several weeks ago about what's most important to me was the culvert under the road going to House Pond, which we have talked about over and over again. And I was almost 100% sure that Mass DOT said when they do the intersection, they'll do the culvert. Is that what you guys remember hearing too?
I remember.
We heard that.
Okay.
We did.
Okay.
But in the meantime, they were to do a study to figure out how much tide they could allow into the House Pond without without harming the structures upstream.
Yep. And so when I talked to Stantec, that was like the most pressing thing to me. And then apparently this set of plans came in with no mention of any culvert repair or replacement. So what I know is that the whole project has to come before us for permitting. And I can simply get back in touch with Stantec and let them know that if we don't have any update on the culvert, we may as well not have the hearing, or it sure would be nice to have the culvert information in with the hearing information. Because when, I can't remember the lady's name from Mass DOT came before us for another project on Route 6, she had given us an overview of the results of the tide monitoring study, but nothing was finalized in that report yet. Therefore, we couldn't receive a copy of it. So I think Stantec needs to go ahead and get us that information so that we can move forward.
Okay, go ahead. I have one comment.
Well, I was going to say, and I pointed out to them again about the salt marsh vegetation that we had seen around the pond, and that was really important for us to have that continue to be shown on the plan.
My comment is that did they have to go to natural heritage for any of this? Because that's a diamondback terrapin habitat. And those turtles, as Ben knows, are crossing the road there. And if they're doing some kind of improvements, it might be a good opportunity to put some kind of a berm or some structure so the turtles don't get squished on the road, Main Street mostly, and sometimes Route 6. And sort of design that around a turtle sanctuary that we have behind the mobile station that's Hedaduck Creek Conservation Area, Wellfleet Conservation Trust. So that's my question, because Ben was interested in this too, about what his neighborhood could do to prevent turtles from being run over on that road. So it's not only people, unfortunately, but we have some turtles that like to cross that road as well. And whether that's incorporated and whether natural heritage has got to be consulted about that project. So
Hillary, I think the important thing would be to tell Stantec that we really want to hear from them, and we want to hear from them specifically about the issue of Hawes Pond and the study and the turtle issue, along with all the other issues we would normally consider, so that they don't feel blindsided and that they know, we're not going to be appreciative of a presentation that does not include that information. Yeah, so I already talked at great length about the culvert, and I will send a note back to them, and I'll include the diamondback terrapin. They crossed the road, Barbara. I just want to make sure I get this right.
Actually get run over in the, the old bank parking lot, that gravel parking lot, and on Route 6 and all along Main Street as, Ben, I don't know if Ben's here, but he can attest to his neighbors wanting to put up signs about that too. Yeah, okay, so they cross Route 6 and then they cross over to Main Street and go to the Hawes Pond. So it's all kind of related. They go all over there looking for nesting. Okay. So. Nesting.
Yeah, I think it's the part where Main Street dips low and it gets really close to the marsh there. I think that's where they get on, and then they could just walk anywhere from there. Right. Yeah, I'll get that email out to them just so they know.
Thank you. Are there any jurisdictional opinions?
No.
Great. There are not. Meeting minutes?
John edited, I made a few typos, and then Deb edited again, so we have very edited minutes, right?
We do. And those are for our last meeting, which was the meeting of August 5th.
I also submitted to Chris a slight change in wording.
Okay.
All right, so we have a lot of edits there.
Highly polished minutes.
Great. Could I have a motion to approve the highly polished minutes?
So moved.
Move.
Is there a second?
Second, Barbara.
All those, oh, we have to do a voice vote. Barbara, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ben,
Yes.
John Portnoy,
Yes.
Mike Fisher,
Yes.
Leon,
Yes.
John Kumbler,
Yes.
Debbie, yes. So those are taken care of. All right, is there anything else that we need to address in the business portion of the meeting?
If I could, I have two issues.
Great.
Hillary, did you go out and look at 715 Chequesset Neck Road? It's the property just,
That's the thin modern house with the carport, the charging station, that one?
what, the one they've just been, they ripped down a house and rebuilt a new house.
Yeah, I think Barbara's the supervisor there, right?
Yes, that's
Yes.
right.
But my concern is that when I looked at it, it looked like they're doing a lot of planting and changing
Yep.
vegetation that I didn't see.
Yep.
I don't remember on the original plan.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's all in the plan.
That's
all-
in the plan.
It's all
Yeah.
they had a problem because they put underground irrigation in the 50, which they weren't supposed to do. And then instead of telling them to pull it out, we said, leave it in until the plants are established and then take it.
Okay. And it looks, what is that thing that's to the west of the house? It's some sort of structure. What is that? Looks like a jacuzzi or a,
Yeah, no, they do have a spa there.
and that's also in the permit.
Yes.
Yes.
Why did we let that happen?
It was a square footage thing they already had. I don't know. It was something that was allowed. I would have to go back and see why that was
I mean, if
permitted.
we allowed it, we allowed it, but boy, they ripped down a small 2-story house and they've got something else there now.
It was actually a 1-story house with a walkout basement.
Right now, they've got a 2.5-story house with a sleep-in basement and way more bedrooms than I think they put in. But, and my other question is, did you look at 935? I'm sure we have permitted because there's so much work, but there's,
935 was permitted.
okay, that's a new seawall, right?
Yep.
Okay,
I think that's 945.
By GFM.
Yeah, 945.
Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, I went there the other day, like 3 days ago, and it looks the actual, they're not done with the planting, but they got the wall in, and it looks pretty good.
okay.
However, since you brought it up, that whole beach and marsh looks like it's dearly in need of sediment. It's just subsiding along that whole shoreline there. Maybe we should look at it sometime when we have the opportunity.
John, where would you go in and start? Would you go in?
Well, I saw it when I did the pre-construction inspection with the guy from GFM, and so we just went down the hill from 945. And the beach there is very rocky because of the loss of sand, and the adjacent marshes are being eroded along the edges because they're not getting enough sediment. And that's why I did ask, and Doug produced the renourishment plan for the 945, and it's only going to cover the amount of sand that would come from the bank along the length, that 30-foot length of the new rock walls. But there's a more, lengthy problem with that whole shoreline there with insufficient sand, sediment.
Hillary, could you get us a map and put it on the next meeting of
Yeah.
the area John's talking about?
Yeah, the
Probably-
Chequesset Neck Road beachfronts
Yeah.
there.
It's
For sure.
and show the properties that are involved, because there must be 5 or 6 properties.
Sure.
That seems to me also, before we move too fast on beach nourishment down there, to get Doug Berman or someone to come in and give us some sense of where that sand is going, because it seems like we're putting an awful lot of sand down there that's all just moving across to the other side of the channel there. the sand spit coming out of Great Island seems to me to be growing fairly significantly, and it's coming from someplace. So I'd like to just have a sense of where the sand is moving before we just, you know, piecemeal, okay, renourish. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, that sounds reasonable, but is that part of Mark Borelli's work, Hillary?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But that's going to take some time to parse out Mark Borelli's work.
Okay.
I think we can take a look at it now and just see where the areas are, where the beach and the marsh look like they're in trouble. And that should guide us as far as what we're going to look at next. I agree, John. I don't think we're going to advocate for dumping sand in response without knowing where it's going.
John Portnoy, were you able to watch the video?
No, I had trouble. I think I told you I had trouble viewing it.
But did you get the direct link I sent you?
Yeah.
Okay, but you still couldn't view it.
I can try it again.
Yeah, I tried it before I sent you the link, and it does work.
Okay, I'll try it again.
Okay. You hear me in the beginning screaming at Parker. It's really a good look. Memorialized for everyone to see.
All right, is there anything else for the business meeting?
Yes,
Yeah.
Debbie, can I go ahead?
Then Barbara.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead. It's your mail that you sent us about the kayak situation.
Yeah, I think we're going to say the same thing. I just, we're going to be on Saturday removing the kayaks, and there's also some sunfish and sailfish and so on. And we'll let you know what the response is. Already people are saying, oh, no, I didn't realize it. Please don't move mine. But that's not going to work.
So are they saying they're going to move it?
No, they just want more time. An exception in their case because of the COVID-19 or because they're away or whatever it is. Their daughter saw the notice and didn't know what to do with it, and so didn't do anything, that kind of thing.
And I think the 12 that are at Field Point will be covered by the letter that Hillary's sending to the Field Point Association. Some of those kayaks are not the owners. They're just people who rent there that just dump their kayaks on the grass. And there's a shell fishing, I think it was a shell fisherman who just abandoned a skiff there. And I just want to bring up this whole issue of shell fishermen. I know that they have certain rights and privileges in town, but they're leaving these skiffs in places to have access to their grants. But some of them, the ones who are a little bit more observant about conservation issues, are actually mooring their skiffs on the grants so that they can use them there instead of just dumping them on the grass. So I'm wondering why this town policy ever evolved that they can just leave skiffs sort of everywhere to access their grants. Because once you have a skiff or a vessel there, then people put more vessels there. So I'm just bringing that up as, I mean, I love the shell fishermen. Some of my best friends are shell fishermen, but they do have extraordinary privileges on public lands that I think are affecting our ability to adhere to the environmental bylaws and to our own bylaws. So I'm just bringing that up today.
And I just went past the end of Omaha, and there were about 6 or 7 boats sort of left in the dunes and not on the rack.
Right.
Right, they're right there at the corner.
Yeah.
Hillary, could we put this on the business meeting for next time?
Yeah.
And perhaps you could look and see where the shellfisherman's rights come from and produce that regulation again? Because I know we have a regulation, but it doesn't deal with abandoned boats.
No, it doesn't deal with abandoned boats. Hold on, I'm just getting my environmental protection regulations. And it says that the shellfishermen what I think it says is that the shellfishermen can leave their boats provided they have a sticker from the harbor master. So, and I'm not even so sure it calls out shellfishermen, but let me see.
But I have a vague notion that the harbor master's not issuing those anymore.
Well, then, okay, it says each licensed commercial fisherman or aquaculturist who stores a small vessel associated with his or her work at a town landing will be allocated one sticker at no charge and a second sticker at no charge if work is done in 2 different locations within Wellfleet Harbor. Stickers for fishermen and aquaculturists shall be year-round and upon request from the harbor master. So
maybe what we need to do is to speak with Nancy and have her come in and talk to us about this.
Yeah, it's not a town landing that they're putting this stuff on. It's a resource that they're putting the stuff on.
Yeah.
Some cases.
Well, there's no protection in that regulation for the use of a resource. There's only protection for the use of a town landing.
Right.
Well, and a slot, it's for a slot on a boat rack, actually.
Oh, okay.
I'm just thinking about this, and I feel like we should get a sign. Well, I don't know if it makes sense now that it's halfway through August, but
We go through every year.
I know. Well, I'm firm in our enforcement for next summer for sure. And I guess I'm thinking that the rest of that boat rack there is going to wash away, so there will be no boat rack, and that area will just be gone to the storage of small vessels.
Well, which area you're talking about? Omaha, but
Omaha.
there's
Yeah,
also
Omaha.
Mill Point, and there are other areas. Mayo Beach, Powers Landing, they have crafts.
Mayo Beach, I thought, was under control because we have all that boat rack space.
That's true, but Powers Landing, I think there are a lot of boats, and the harbor master lets people put boats there if they have a boat moored there, and they have.
So perhaps we need a conversation with the harbor master as well. So I'm thinking our next meeting, September 2nd, we have the DLTA discussion, so we can't put this on that meeting, but maybe we want to try and have this on our second meeting in September, the business meeting, which is September
16th.
September 16th. And see if we can get Nancy and the harbor master to talk with us.
Good idea.
Does that work? And by then we'll hear how your effort went, or the Conservation Trust effort went, and see what kind of friends you guys have made, and try and learn from your experience.
Right. I'll be glad to report.
That sounds good.
So Mike, you people are just, Michael, you're just removing them to another location, like, and people have to then search them down, right?
Right. So they've had, you got my email, they've had a notice on the kayak for 2 weeks. And so on Saturday, we're going to put them on another piece of land inland, so it's not on a resource. And we hope that they'll just take them from there and never come back.
Drill small holes in them.
That's okay.
Don't say that, John. Don't say that.
We've notified the police in case there are reports of stolen kayaks.
Good.
So who do I congratulate for putting together the new bylaws and reviewing those? It's John, Debbie, and
Michael.
Michael.
Thank you. Yeah, I saw just a couple of things, but I think that was a great effort.
Yes.
I just have one question. What is the heat island effect? I did read some of that. What is the heat island effect that's in those bylaws?
I didn't write that, but I think I know what it is. It's like in a city, we have a lot of concrete. It absorbs heat. So it ends up being hotter than the surrounding environment.
Okay.
I believe that's it.
All right.
Yes.
All right. Thank you.
It's an impervious area that creates it.
Okay. Thank you.
So, Barbara, do you want us to put the revised bylaw on a business meeting, or do you want to wait and see what we hear from Horsley and Witten? How would you like to do that?
I think it was great. I saw one typo in the whole thing, and I think it'll be fixed eventually. Barbara,
if you can send that to me or tell me, I'll fix it.
Yeah, page 6. There's one typo. You'll see it.
Okay.
But I don't think we need to. I think you guys did a great job. I mean, this subcommittee idea really worked well.
All right, then when we get the regulations in and we've directed them, perhaps after we get drafts back on that, we can renew the subcommittee if people want to do that.
Okay.
And there were some questions that we weren't sure whether things should go into this or into the regulations. And Debbie has a list of those questions.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just wondering where I put it from right now.
Wait for Horsley and Witten.
You were writing it on the back of your printout, I think.
Yeah. I was just looking in my stuff to find where I had written. Yeah, some of the questions were, and I'll just run through them briefly since we have time, is many times we get an applicant who comes in for one thing and the applicant does not realize that everything about the property within our jurisdiction is then on the table for us to review, discuss, and direct. And we were thinking that somewhere in the regulations should be a notification that if you come before the commission for anything, you have to realize that your entire property, which is unpermitted, is before the commission. Hillary, do you understand what I'm talking about?
Yeah, so if you have a pre-existing violation, we may comment on that. Yeah.
Right.
I think that goes into our regular, well, I don't know where that goes. I would think it would go.
I think it goes in the regulations.
I think it goes in the regulations, but I think we've tried to sort of pick up on some of these things over the years, and sometimes we're told, well, that's not in the application before you. You need to now go after them with enforcement, take the enforcement approach instead of incorporating it into the current notice that we have in front of us. So I think we should shop that to Horsley Witten for sure and see what they say.
Okay, the second thing was, one of the things we get are piecemeal alterations, and this is pretty much the same thing we were just talking about. And sometimes we are unable to look at the cumulative effect of alterations until the very end. For example, there's that one property we've all looked at and been to. I believe it's over in the Pleasant Point area, where it's been one series of alterations after another series of alterations after another series, so that the whole property has been developed and changed. And we'd like to consider some way of having people who propose their entire panorama of alterations to us at one time. I realize properties get sold. I realize, additional things get done, but it's the piecemeal effect where one thing becomes much more important after it's been done because of the new changes that are proposed. The other thing was we wanted to look at the issue of the 5,000 square feet of disturbed or altered land to see if we wanted to make that the same, larger, or smaller. We wanted to look at the issue of wildlife and vegetation both being impacted, because I think we refer to wildlife and we don't make a separate issue of vegetation, and we're not sure that we need to, but that's just something we need to pay attention to and be careful about. The other issue is in the regulations, do we want to touch on our relationship with open space and what needs to be done with open space? Also, we wanted to be sure that the regulations address John Kumbler's issue of reduced nitrogen or nutrient discharge within 300 feet of a wetland or surface waters. So we want to be sure that that's in the regulations. And the other we wanted to look at was the potential for large groundwater removal and whether that's addressed in our regulations. For example, if a large structure were to be built. But we're certainly open to any other suggestions you might want to jot down and talk to us about, talk to the committee about for regulations.
That's a good list, Debbie. That's good.
Thank you.
Did I miss anything, John Portnoy or Michael Fisher?
No, nothing I can think of, no.
Debbie, you.
No, I think you did. That's it.
Debbie, if I could ask.
Yes, Chris.
Last one about large water.
Large groundwater removal. Do we need to address
Thank
that
you.
in our
Thank you.
in our regulations?
And so Hillary, from
Yes.
what I understand from your response to my email, we can't do anything about pesticides within 300, 200, 100 feet of a wetland. Or,
No, we missed the boat
or
on that.
fertilizer,
Yeah, we missed the boat on that.
even fertilizer.
Even fertilizer, yep.
All right, and I'm going to come back to my issue of the shower, just to mention, I know you say you didn't like my solution, but, and I know I'm not picking on my grandson when I say it, but my grandson doesn't take an outdoor shower without peeing. So there is a nitrogen, or, urea is going into the water, and some of these showers are right at the very edge of a wetland. And I don't think my grandson's the only one who pees in the shower. I think it's a pretty common practice. So I wonder if we want to do something about these showers. Because if I said, okay, let's have a toilet that just emptied into the wetland, none of you would say, as long as they only peed into the toilet, it's okay. So
Well, if we made a regulation, enforcement would be tough.
no, it would be very easy. You just say, if it's a shower and it's within 100 feet of the wetland, it has to be put, and I know you don't like this, but I think it has to be put into the septic system, because in the future, those septic systems are going to be nitrogen removal septic systems. I just think we have that. This makes sense to me. And again, my grandson may be the only one who pees in the shower, but I.
So why don't you get him under control?
What?
Get him under control.
Well, then you have to get every single renter who rents a house in Wellfleet under control.
Well, no, my point is you don't have to do that. All you have to do is say, if someone comes before us and got an outdoor shower and it's within 100 feet of the wetland, you say that shower has to be put into your septic system because of the problem of nitrates. That's all.
But isn't soap a problem too? Like,
Soap?
yeah, like soap, like phosphorus and.
Yeah, I think that's another example. People definitely shampoo and soap and
Products.
yeah, I just think it's not a bad idea if the shower is close to the wetland.
Hillary,
So,
These showers, let me just finish this. I think these showers are just like opens, you put an outdoor shower in and then anything goes in them. And if it's close to the wetland, I think we should be concerned. I've seen them in the ponds. They have showers right there.
so what if we put that in our regulation, maybe as something that we don't allow? So we just don't allow an outdoor shower within 100 feet of a wetland.
Wow.
I mean,
I think that's a little too hard. That's all I'm saying. I think allowing it, if it's within 100 feet, then you have to put it into your septic system. And those septic systems are going to be upgraded to be nitrogen removal in the future. So that's,
Hillary, is your issue with it being hooked into the septic system that's a Board
Well,
of Health
because
issue?
it's really not, it's the functionality, right? So whose outdoor shower has a roof?
Right. It's got to have a roof.
Many of your outdoor showers have roofs. I'm just asking. Mine does
oh,
not.
that's a good point. Very good point. I appreciate that.
So I just think, I mean, if you want to go down that road, by all means, we can go down this road, but we're going to have people then put roofs on their septic system or on their showers to prevent rainwater and snow and to keep all of those elements out, which would detract from it. That's why
those outdoor showers that are within 100 feet.
within 100 feet. And so what we normally ask for is a dry well, a very specifically dug dry well. But the dry well, you're right, doesn't take care of nitrogen or phosphorus or personal care products. That's why I'm more inclined to say we just don't allow outdoor showers in the 100-foot buffer zone, instead of getting into the debate about, okay, well, now you need a roof. Now tell me exactly what kind of roof are you putting on and how are you plumbing that into your septic system? Like, it's dicey. So I would rather us just say yay or nay. And if they can come up with some way to do it, but like a roof is a roof. So, I mean, there's no value in an outdoor shower if it has a roof.
Some of these are just used in the summer. So I would say, cap it for 10 months of the year so that you don't get the rain and the snow and all that stuff. There must be a way to do that so that.
But how are we going to regulate that and enforce that? Did you put your roof on your outdoor shower this year? Or, a
way to just cap the drain or something like that.
I like the way of doing it just to say we don't allow them in the 100-foot buffer zone, period. Because that way going forward, we avoid the problem entirely.
But you know how many of them are already out there?
Yeah, but.
Well, we can't go back and grab those. So those folks can consider themselves lucky until they come to us for something else.
Yeah, but they will come to us for something else.
And then we'll deal with it. But I think at this point, we can start by saying no outdoor showers in the 100-foot buffer.
It's a start. I think we'll pass that by Horsley Witten and see what they have to say.
Okay.
And we'll hear from the public during public comment on our regulations.
Oh boy, we'll hear.
And I guess I'm just having flashbacks to when my colleague, the health agent, Terry Hayes, was in Dennis. He's not in Dennis anymore. He tried to prohibit outdoor showers and the world was ending. It was a huge deal. The newspaper was all over it. It was a hot topic and he ended up running away from it. So we need to be prepared to fight it with good reason, which I think we have, obviously. But we just need to be prepared.
Any other proposals that we should think about for regulations?
Well, wasn't there the issue about 100 feet, but then horizontal or vertical, depending on the flow or the scope of the permeability and so on? In other words, instead of having a fixed amount, some sort of way to measure the effects of the runoff.
That would require a hydrology evaluation for each site.
Well, it's just, I quite agree, but, just 100 feet is not always the same thing in terms of its effects.
True.
Well, I don't hear groundswell of support, so maybe you can drop that.
Once again, let's punt that by Horsley Witten and see what their experience is and what other towns are doing with that slope issue. We can't.
Well, it's worth asking.
How would you write that up, Mike? How would you say, how is slope defined?
Well, that it would be within our purview to extend beyond 100 feet if it's clear that the effects are extending that far.
I don't know how we would do that.
Yeah, I mean, you have to consider the slope, you have to consider the material, and it would be down a few feet at least to the 100 foot.
We're still talking about outdoor shower drainage.
No,
Oh, no, we're talking about
any structure, any alteration.
Oh, that would affect. Yeah, I think that's a slippery slope. And I only say that because I remember when we were looking at runoff from a structure out at the beach, and town council told us there was nothing we could do about it because the origin of it was outside of our jurisdiction, and that caused a major problem within our jurisdiction, but because it originated outside of our jurisdiction, there was nothing we could really do about it legally. If you remember that from a couple of years back.
Interesting. Okay.
So this would be a replay of that issue.
Yeah, I feel like it would be, but maybe Horsley Witten can give us some insight that they know that maybe, we can work on something.
because there was a workshop that Barbara and I went to in which this came up, and I'm trying to remember exactly what the title of it was and the circumstance, but they were coming up with new draft policies, I think.
It was a buffer zone workshop.
Right.
How to define it and whether 100 foot is something that fits all. Is it one size fits all, or maybe some places need 120 feet or some places could use 60 feet, depending on the hydrology, once again.
Right, but how do you determine that in terms of setting a rule that's going to apply to everyone? Do you require a hydrological study each time with an application?
I don't know. I think I'm kind of thinking around like our kettle holes or our ponds. Like we know that that area is probably more sensitive than the top of a revetted coastal bank, for instance. So maybe the top of a revetted coastal bank keeps a 100-foot buffer zone, but something like a pond, which we know is more sensitive, and if we could keep construction further away from that, then we're maintaining more of that sensitive area.
I think that was the gist of this workshop that we went to, that each site, this 100 foot is just a number, but each site is unique.
Right.
But we need science to back up, just, well, and this is where Horsley Witten will come in, right? Because they'll do some research and some homework. And we'll like, what is that area that would better serve our ponds or a BVW? Or, maybe we can acknowledge that 100 feet back from a revetted coastal bank, maybe that's plenty, or, like I bet they could help us through that.
Okay. I've added that to the list, so.
Good topic for discussion, I think.
Yep.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, the only other thing I have is that Chris provided us tonight with the signature sheets for each matter we're going to hear. And if you could get those back to her as quickly as possible. At least one of the matters involves a closing, and they need to have the sheets back so that they can go ahead with their closing.
I think that's a good way to do it.
Yeah. Okay, so I think we've got a few minutes before the public hearings portion. Anything anybody else wants to talk about?
I request a 4-minute break.
Okie dokie. Then let's have a break.
Okay, 4-minute break.
Hillary?
Sorry, yes, Chris?
Can I ask you to let people in?
Yeah, I think I've been doing it anyway.
Okay, thank you.
Of course.
That's just a muting. You should be muted too.
Okay, we're going to open the public hearing portion of the Town of Wellfleet Conservation Commission meeting of August 19th, 2020. This is pursuant to the same statutes cited previously at the opening of the business meeting. The first hearing is for Douglas, 925 Chequesset Neck Road, map 19, parcel 100. It's an RDA for interior and exterior alterations. Is there anyone here for Douglas?
Hi, I'm Steve Douglas, and David LaJoy is also with us to present the project. And we have Matt Cole available to answer questions from Cape Associates if necessary, and I think Teresa Sprague from Blue Flags as well. Thank you.
Okay. Who would like to start?
I will. Thank you. It's Dave LaJoy.
Thank you, Dave.
Good afternoon. Project's on Chequesset Neck Road. Well-developed site with a house, lawn area, some smaller other items, shed and the deck. But the property is pretty well maintained. It's vegetated. It also has a retaining wall which secures the coastal bank. Coastal bank's the resource area. We're entirely within the 50-foot filter strip And the proposed work is, the exterior portion of it is to replace roofing, siding, trim, doors, etc. All of that work will be done by hand. I believe you have some information sent to you by Mr. Douglas that describes all of this. The interior work will also be done. All of the debris will be taken out of the 50-foot filter strip from the roadside, put into a suitable dumpster that's going to be located in the northwest portion of the property. Be happy to answer any questions.
I have one.
Barbara?
Yeah, how is the swimming pool filled now?
No,
Oh, okay.
that's part of the project. Excuse me, that's part of the project.
So it's an empty pool right now.
I believe so, yes.
Okay, I was just concerned about where all that chlorinated water was going to go.
I don't think there's any water in the pool. I believe it hasn't been used much. Mr. Douglas can maybe tell you better, but any water that would be there would be removed, taken off site.
Yeah, the pool's completely empty, and was empty when we purchased the property.
Thank you.
This is Mike Fisher. I have a question. Where is the well for this property?
The well is,
go ahead, Steve.
Oh yeah, the well is just on the other side of the street, within an easement granted by the Chiquessa Club.
Well, in that case, I have to recuse because that's now Wells Street Conservation Trust land.
Okay.
Actually, it's not on the portion that was recently transferred to the trust.
But he might still be in a butter then.
Okay.
Yes, we are definitely abutters.
I have a question.
John?
You mentioned the blue flax is involved, but I didn't see a revegetation plan. Is there such a plan, and is there any need for revegetation?
There's no intent at all to disturb any vegetation, but you know, Teresa's firm would obviously help us if any work were required for any reason.
Teresa Sprague with Blue Flax Design. My involvement here was simply to review the work protocol and make recommendations to Cape Associates as to how to best make sure that there were no impacts to the resource area, to ensure that there was going to be no soil disturbance and no vegetation removal.
Anyone else?
It seems like we don't really have that much to talk about because it's all mostly interior and the exterior work is going to be tightly controlled. They're not going to disturb the vegetation as long as they don't have a big impact on it. I think this isn't really our concern. I mean, we have to say something, but I don't think we have to spend a lot of time on this.
Anyone else?
It seems like a well-developed plan for RDA. I think it's one of the most well-developed ones I've seen, and there aren't any red flags for me except the pool water, which I already mentioned. That's taken care of.
If we're through discussing it, could I have a motion, please?
Move that we accept the proposal for 925 Chiquesset Neck Road, map 19, parcel 100, an RDA, interior and exterior alterations.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
We need a voice vote. Barbara, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ben?
Yes.
John Kumbler?
Yes.
Mike Fisher?
Abstain.
Leon?
Yes.
Debbie? Yes. You're all set.
I didn't vote.
Portnoy.
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize.
Yes, and I believe it's a -3 on the
Thank
IDA.
you. Thank you.
So if you will sign your determination of applicability forms and turn those in to Chris, we'd really appreciate it.
We don't have to print our names on that, just sign it.
Just sign.
Okay, thank you.
All right, the next hearing is.
Good afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dave.
Hi, Dave.
Hi there.
The next hearing is for Van Cleve, 489 State Highway, map 42, parcel 129, RDA, remove 13 trees. Before we start on this, Hillary, was this before us before?
Yes, it was.
No one showed up to talk about it?
I don't know. I'm sorry.
Yes, no, it did come up. I'm looking for the date.
Yeah, it did come up previously, and we had questions about whether this should be an RDA at all.
I thought we determined it had to be an NOI.
Well, it came up in January 28th, 2020, and the applicant never showed up.
Yeah, I think if I recall, we did some initial discussion indicating that it was our policy that more than 3 trees needed to be an NOI. Hillary, do you remember that?
I do not remember January of 2020. I am sorry. We can probably retrieve the meeting minutes and reread that. I know we had determined that any more than 3 trees was not a jurisdictional opinion. And
Okay,
then
it's my mistake.
there was some sort of gray area depending on what the trees were being removed for. We needed to hear an application to determine whether it was an RDA or it was sufficient enough to require the filing of a notice of intent. So I think that's how we had left it.
Okay, could I say something?
Yes, Chris.
Hillary, when I was looking at the folder, you had a handwritten note saying they requested to be on this meeting tonight. And we had put this, they had filed the RDA back in January and they never showed up. So we left it open for reopening.
And it looks like Becky is here, so she could tell us what's happened since January, because I'm sorry,
Okay.
I usually remember things, but.
So yeah, we were waiting for notification from the Division of Fisheries and Wildlife. And when we got that on July 9th, we reached out to Doug, who was very helpful with Dennis in helping us put our application together that we filed in January. And it was then that he told us that we had been assigned a hearing in March and that an email had been sent, but we never received that notification. So we weren't like a no-show. We actually had no idea. And we went through and we checked the junk email and whatnot, and we never knew. So he, when we spoke to him, probably maybe the 3rd week in July, he said that he would put us on this agenda.
So we didn't actually hear the case in January?
No, we did not.
Okay.
Hillary, to help your memory, January is when you were actually seeing people.
No.
Okay.
It's all a distant memory. I'm sorry, but here we are. So
and March was a tricky month, that's for sure.
Okay, Ms. Van Cleve, do you want to tell us about your project?
Sure. So we are proposing the removal of 13 trees. I think you have the application there, so you have the map with them numbered. Trees 1 through 7 are in serious decline to gypsy moth infestation and are incredibly hazardous to the building and people. So, I mean, when we get any amount of wind, we just kind of hold our breath and hope for the best. Number 8 is incredibly uprooted and is threatening a power line that's on our property. 9, we have a heavy lean towards the building. So we're just nervous that in any type of significant storm that it is going to threaten our safety and the house. Number 10 has a light lean that is close to the building. Trees 11, 12, and 13, they also are leaning towards the building, but we're nervous because they're showing evidence of rotting towards the base of the tree. And then my husband also included the types of trees that they are. So trees 1 through 5 are red oaks. Number 6 is a white oak. 7 is a red oak. And then 9 is also a red oak. And then the rest are all the black locusts.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
So the map that was sent in, it doesn't have where the buffer zone and the resource are, but I gather that they're behind trees 6 and 7 along that line.
Yeah, so still have this map here.
Yeah. It does show the filter strip, 50-foot filter strip, and the 100-foot buffer zone.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, yes, you're right. I'm sorry. So then the second question is, I was out there today as I was in January, and there's a huge pile of miscellaneous things, boat hulls and plywood and tarps and old lumber and all sorts of miscellaneous stuff, which is right along near tree 7.
It is. So we've been painting the back of the house and just needing to move materials around. And they were closer to our deck. And then we just kind of keep moving things as we move our ladders and our painting material.
Right, but putting them into a buffer zone, is that a wise idea?
I guess it wasn't something that struck us, as we were just in the painting job, but if it's something you're uncomfortable with, we can make that adjustment for sure.
Well, I certainly wouldn't vote in favor as long as that pile of stuff is left there.
Sure.
So it would have to be moved out of the buffer zone.
Yep.
You know, I remember when we looked at this, there was a bathtub at one point in the backyard.
Yeah, so the bathtub is just kind of, I don't know, it's been with us for 25 years. We took it from another place that we lived in. It's not something that we plan on using. It's just something that we're attached to.
Okay, that has to be moved out of the buffer zone too.
Okay, sure.
I had a couple of things, Debbie.
Yes, John.
In general, the closer the activity or the closer vegetation removal is to the edge of, to the actual resource, which in this case is the wetland at Fresh Brook, or also called Trout Brook,
yeah.
The more concerned we are. And so I'm wondering why tree 6 and tree 8 have to be removed in particular, because they look like they're not within, maybe they are, but it looks to me, and look to me out in the field, that they're not within reach of the house, of damaging the house.
So from my perspective, like standing in the yard and looking at them, our feeling is that they are a threat to our house. It's both of them really. And even like number 8, I mean, if that one comes down and falls toward our house, it's huge. It could also fall and potentially reach the road. And I mean, they're just really tall trees.
Okay.
It is.
Oh, one other thing. I have one other thing. Excuse me. How are you going to deal with the stumps? Will they just be cut flush? Will there be any ground disturbance associated with removal of the trees?
I'm actually not sure. I know that Dennis and my husband have talked about the removal, like to have a plan for it, but I don't know the details of it.
We would need to know that because the less disturbance, the better. So if they were just flush cut, that would be best.
Can you tell me what that means, flush cut?
It means cutting the stump level with the ground and just leave the stump in place.
Yeah, we would leave the stump in place. Because that was something that my other residents where I am, my uncle cut down several trees, and that was something that I had asked about. Like, would we take the stumps out? And Ben and Dennis both said that we wouldn't.
Okay.
Debbie?
Yes.
Can we just condition this on they not remove the stumps? I mean, I remember when we went out there, a lot of these trees are close to the house. Some of them aren't that, I mean, the gypsy moss is not that big of an issue, but they are close to the house and the people feel threatened. Definitely 8 look problematic to me. I just think I think we should give these people the peace of mind and let them deal with this rather than have them go through a source of coming back to us again and again, removing 1 or 2 trees at a time. Just condition it on leaving the stumps in the ground and taking the trash out of the resource area, and then let them go ahead and move.
So I just have a question. John made me think of something. If you approve, like, is there a timeline, just because it's a pretty costly project? I know that we have 5 years with the Fisheries and Wildlife. I didn't know if y'all would have a timeline for us.
We do. Hillary?
The permit is good for 3 years.
3 years.
Barbara?
Yeah, I wasn't out to the site, but I'm just wondering if there's any mitigation that might be appropriate for the removal of all those trees. I don't know how wooded it was, or, you know, if shrubs could be put in since it's near the, you know, a wetland there. Anyone have any thoughts about mitigation?
Barbara, when we went out there, it's a very well developed, I mean, it's not like they're pulling up trees in a fairly undeveloped, unworked area. It's a worked space. I don't think, I mean, it'd be nice if they wanted to put in some shrubbery, but I don't think we need to worry about that, to be honest. There
seem to be quite a number of shrubs, particularly toward the water.
Yeah.
John,
probably. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
John Portland, did you want to comment on that?
Yeah, actually, I did have a reaction to that. I think that since we're responsible for particularly the 50-foot buffer, and the fact that it's been developed doesn't mean that that's fine. It can stay developed. I mean, our objective is to try to maintain and in some cases restore habitat along the riparian zone within the 50-foot buffer. So, you know, that's sort of a long-winded way of saying I think that some mitigation should happen in terms of some shrub planting.
So would you indicate where you think the shrub planting should be? Is it in the area of trees 6 and 8? That area?
Yes.
And how many, I mean, there are a lot of trees coming down, 13 trees coming down. So what would you think in terms of shrubs?
Well, what is the formula we've used in the past?
3 to 1.
Okay, well, I would suggest that we don't apply that to all 13 trees, but only those that are going to be removed within the 50-foot filter strip.
That's a great idea.
Yeah,
So,
I would agree with that as well.
John, are you suggesting trees or shrubs?
Shrubs.
Okay, and what kinds would you suggest?
I would, well, Hillary has a list, but it seems to me that it's an appropriate place for Inkberry. If it's sunnier locations, Bayberry. I think Ben probably could have some suggestions too.
Ben, do you have some suggestions?
Yeah,
There are, I would just add too, I mean, not to disagree with what you're saying, there are shrubs that like grow between these trees.
Yeah, but you're taking down a lot of carbon.
Okay.
Carbon sink that you have that you're taking down. And we're concerned about that also. So having also the carbon and also wildlife habitat, restoring some of that. So.
And the carbon, and again, I'm not disagreeing, several of these trees are dead. They have no leaves on them.
Right. We understand, but maybe a couple of them are still viable.
Some of them are, but if like just thinking about the 3-to-1, 3 of the trees have no leaves on them.
No, we're just talking about 3-to-1 in the 50-foot buffer area. So
Okay.
we're talking about 6 bushes.
Okay.
6 and 8. I believe that's what we were talking about.
Okay.
Ready to be corrected by anybody who has a
No,
different.
thank you, Deborah.
Ben, were you going to mention some bushes that you thought were appropriate too?
Yeah, I mean, one question I have to what the commission does is could there be any plantings below the top of the bank? Do we normally allow that kind of thing? No, I'm asking the commission. I'm asking the members since I'm.
I don't know. It would depend how much disturbance that would create in the bank itself.
Yeah. Okay.
Can I just, Ben, can you just clarify when you say bank, do you mean like where number 6 is?
Well, oh no, I'm just talking about like the difference between the top of the bank versus past that towards the wetland. But I would just, I mean, I think the main thing I would look at is shade versus sunny. If it's, you know, if you're taking trees down, then you're gonna allow for a lot more sun to come in. So you just have to factor that in. Viburnum would be a good shrub if it's still super shady. If you're introducing a lot more sun, you might want beach plum or bayberry. And then I guess Hillary, you have a list that you can just do a little bit of research on just making sure that you have the right sun shade ratio for the plants. And if the reason why I brought up the top of the bank is because if planting was done close to the wetland, then you could do some water loving plants like blueberry or tuberose.
Oh, the blueberry.
But you could probably get away with that at the top of the bank as well.
Dennis had mentioned the blueberry. So can you all help clarify for me which trees are in the buffer zone?
It would be the trees that are in the 50-foot all the way to the 100-foot.
Okay.
No,
But we're only talking about the mediation. I'm sorry.
Between the 50 and the resource.
Right. We're only talking about trees 6 and 8.
Okay.
So that's 6 bushes, really, right?
Yes.
Correct.
So Hillary, I guess what we're saying is the conditions would be that all refuse needs to be removed from the buffer zone.
Yeah.
The stumps can only be cut to the ground. They cannot be ground out. And that we need a revegetation plan, which could be submitted to Hillary, indicating shrubs to be planted in the 50-foot strip. And that would be 6 shrubs. Did anyone else have anything that I missed?
I have another question.
Okay.
So if as far as us like working this plan out so we can afford it, just because it's a pretty pricey project. The revegetation plan would need to be with you before, say, we took down trees 1 and 2.
Yes.
Okay. And is there a place where I can get like a special form or application?
You're just gonna sketch it onto your site plan where you're gonna put the shrubs.
And I'm gonna forward it to you, Hillary.
Sure, myself or Doug.
Okay, Hillary or Doug. Okay. With all my stickies.
All right, could I have a motion, please?
I move that we approve the RDA for Van Cleve, spelled with an CLEAVE, at 489 State Highway, map 42, parcel 129.
I second.
With the conditions.
With the conditions, yes.
Okay, we need a voice vote. Barbara?
Yes.
John Kumbler?
Yes.
John Portnoy?
Yes.
Leon?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Debbie? Yes. You're all set.
Thank you so much.
Negative what?
Sign your form and submit that to Chris.
Is that a -2 or 3?
3.
Thank you.
Okay, the next hearing is for, I'm going to say it wrong, Kelb, 3187 State Highway, map 13, parcel 69. It's a notice of intent for a shed, fence replacement, outdoor shower, repair and maintenance to the main structure, removal of knotweed and revegetation with native species, driveway extension and propane pad. Is there anyone present for this hearing?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes. Would you state your name, please, and spell it?
Yes, it's Ronald Kelb. The I is silent. It's a tricky one. It's Kielb and Junior.
Okay. Mr. Kelb, since there are so many parts to your project, why don't you go through each one separately so that we can indicate our approval or disapproval at that time?
Sure, of course. All right, so let's see here. So let's start. With the driveway extension. So currently the area, it's a sloped, just turf hill. It has some little English ivy on it. And it's an 11-degree slope over 32 feet. And it's located, the driveway extension would be located within the 50 to 100 foot buffer zone. The impacted area, it would be an 8 by 16 foot rectangle and a 6 by 5 foot little triangle corner with a total disturbance of 143 square feet. So currently the driveway, it's a public safety issue. The driveway doesn't allow for maneuverability of a vehicle within the property. So what ends up happening is you have to reverse out onto the shoulder of Route 6. And it's a little tricky in the winter. It's not an issue, but in the summer it's a problem with, there's not very good visibility and with bikers and in traffic and everything. So what I would like to do is I'd like to redesign the driveway to go from an I shape to an L shape so that I can maneuver my vehicle to be able to pull out onto Route 6 safely. So what we'd be doing is the driveway, the 3 points of it are all completely level. There's just one corner of the driveway that has to be raised, a total of 19 inches. So what we would do is we would have a pressure treated timber retaining wall with 6 by 6 contact timbers. And then I know originally there was an issue with bringing in fill. So I think that we can recycle the fill from other projects. So from when we do the dry wells, which have to go in, and from the retaining wall and the posts that we have to dig with the fence. it's really not that much material, but I think that we can get enough to be able to complete the project. And then for the actual surface, we would have those permeable grass pavers. And then ideally, I'd like to revegetate it with like a thyme lawn, just because, it's kind of pretty. It has flowers for pollinators, and it kind of lowers the water consumption, because I don't really want more grass, to be honest. And that's pretty much. Any questions?
You're in a hard spot. It's an old house in an area where we would really not encourage building these days.
Mm-hmm.
Does anybody have any comments on the driveway?
I think we have to. I mean, just public safety says yes for this. I think the whole area is been, I mean, as you say, probably should never have been built, but it is built. It's there. You give the person a safe way to get on Route 6 without killing a bicyclist or themselves. I just think this is this part of it is, to me, is a slam dunk. Yes.
Okay. Any other comments from anyone else? So am I right in assuming that the driveway extension is acceptable?
Yes.
Yes, for me.
All right, then we'll go on to the next portion of the project.
Okay, so the next thing I have is the shed. So I know originally I had it located in the area that kind of where the fence connects to the house, but that was in the 0 to 50 foot buffer zone, and you guys wanted to move it outside. So we moved the shed out to, it's pretty close to where the driveway extension is. And let's see. So the shed is pretty straightforward. It would be a 10 by 13 foot shed with a 36-inch ramp. So the ramp, the shed itself is going to be on stilts. So the front side of the shed that's towards the driveway will be approximately 24 inches off the ground, and the back side of the shed would be 48 inches off the ground, and that brings the shed level to where this driveway extension is. So there would be a ramp that would go from the shed to the little driveway extension to be able to access it. And so the shed would sit upon 4 6x6 ground contact timbers. The 2 timbers that would be closest to the driveway would be post hole dug into the ground. And then the 2 timbers that were closer to where, say, the well is, would be on a cement pad. And the structure of the main box frame of the shed itself would be made out of pressure treated wood, and trim and siding would be untreated plywood with just standard tar paper and untreated white shingles or white cedar shingles. And then let's see, what else do we have? So the front side of the shed, what I'd like to do is have like a little bit of a raised untreated lattice, and that would allow, I had planted some major wheeler honeysuckle that would be able to grow up the side of the front and the south side of the shed. And the roof would be recycled slate. There's slate roof tiles that would be recycled from a salvage project. And then we would do metal gutters that would go to just like the other dry wells there. It's a 10 foot by 15-inch easy dry well. That's it's the royal blue on the site map. And
can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
You relocated the shed from the last time we had seen you, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So I guess I personally feel like the shed location is marked improvement from what we had heard in his last hearing. So I don't know that we need to detail it in any greater length at this point. I think you listened to us on the shed, and I think it's the most acceptable location we can find on your property to place a shed. So if the commission wants to contemplate that for a moment.
Oh, I agree. Ron listened to us and we said, move it out of where it was and try it near the driveway, and he did that, so.
Yep.
Any other comments on the shed?
I'm just going to say, so that my voice is here, I thought the shed was better off where it was before because that's a knotweed mess. And the shed, in fact, would deal with a lot of that knotweed mess without the use of herbicides. But I was voted against last time, so.
All right, any other comments on the shed? All right, so I assume we're pretty much we agree on the shed?
Yes.
Okay, so you want to go on to the next thing?
Yes, so the next thing I have is the fence replacement. So this was pretty fun to figure out. There's a lot of issues that we ran into trying to figure out who owns the actual fence along the highway. So pretty much in the end, we just decided to make it, the easiest path of resistance. So right now there's currently an existing very rotted privacy fence that runs along the property line, along the front portion along Route 6, and then along the property line between my property and Todd Barry's property next door, the 3199 State Highway, and then from there it connects to the house. So it's pretty similar. So the fencing boards, what we would like to do is we would like to construct the post supports for the shed with a 6x6 ground treated lumber, and then they would be 8-foot high soundproofing panels that would only be in the areas where to help reduce the noise from the traffic. So the area from the along the property line from between our two properties with the neighbor, and then along the front portion of along Route 6. And then the area that would connect from the property line to the actual house would be dropped back down to just a standard 6-foot fence.
Okay.
Does
so have any comments on the fence? Is everybody in agreement that the fence is acceptable?
As I recall, we talked about the possibility of a turtle passage through there, Barbara. Do you remember that?
Or just a wildlife passage under the fence?
Yeah, so what we decided, I spoke with a couple people about it, and we decided that so originally we were going to do vinyl paneling, and that created an issue to create like a little cubby hole. So we decided to just raise all the fencing 6 inches like you liked, but they would be, the framework of the fence itself would be pressure treated, and then the actual fencing would just be untreated timber.
Does that answer your question, Leon?
Yes, thank you.
So is the fence acceptable?
Yes. I just want to make one more comment about the fencing that we have set up, the fencing that is outside of my property line, the old fencing, we would remove a large portion of that. But there would be 3 panels that we would leave. And the same thing with the fencing panels that are existing outside the property line along the 3187 and 3199. So if you look on the site map, the portions in gray are all to be removed permanently. And then the portions that are gray and red striped are the ones that would be retained. So in the end, there would be an additional 20 feet of paneling from what was existing currently at the property. I don't know if that changes things for mitigation and stuff like that. But the fence along the highway would be replaced along the actual property line itself. So it would be moved, that fencing would be moved forward.
Okay.
The property line.
So would any of the fence replacement occur on 3199 State Highway?
No, so there's actually a little cluster of locust trees that actually sit directly on the property line. So the main portion of the fencing along that property line, probably half of it is actually a number of feet on my property, and then it would run along the property line and connect to the house itself.
Okay.
All right, are there any other questions about the fencing? Okay, do you want to go along to the next part of your proposal?
Yes. So, so then from there, I guess let's do, so one thing that I did add from the previous thing is I would like to have propane on site at some point. So I got a quote from Marcy Oil in Provincetown, and they said that I guess because the house is on stilts, that there was a requirement that the propane tank had to be a minimum of 5 feet away from the building. So so it's kind of like out on the site map. It kind of looks like it's kind of floating out there. But so what we have is the fencing that connects from the property line to the house itself. When you walk through that, that's where the mini split was, or the mini split is, and then the propane pad would be right directly behind that. Behind the fencing. Currently, this area, this whole entire side yard is just it's completely degraded with knotweed, and so once we try to kind of manage all of that, then we'd be able to put a propane pad back there. Was the idea, and that was long term. The idea would have it would have a propane stove and a on-demand propane hot water heater to replace the electric hot water heater, and then some sort of supplemental heating source, because right now the only heating that we have for the winter is the actual mini split, which works okay, but we'd like to supplement that with some sort of like little propane stove or something that that would be able to help us if there was, say, a power outage or something along those lines.
So the propane tank would be elevated above the base flood elevation? Is that what the stilts are doing?
No, I don't. I guess apparently if the house was on an actual cement foundation or cellar, then the propane tank could be right against the building. But for some reason, I guess that's just what they told me. They said that because the house specifically is on stilts, that the propane tank had to be at least a minimum of 5 feet from the building. So the area that's near the that's near the mini split they have the dry well there. So there's a lot of all the electrical from the house comes out of that corner. So that's why we figured if we moved it right there behind that first fence, fence panel, once you go through the gate, then then we wouldn't have anything important that would be underneath it. Is there any questions? It's the pad itself, it would be hand poured. It's a 36 by 36 by 8 inch cement, cement pad. The same thing that we did for or similar, system that we did for when we poured the pad for the mini split.
Hillary, do you have any further question on that?
No, I guess I'm wondering what the plumbing code says about putting the propane tank in the flood zone and not above it. So it's not.
It's a building issue.
Yeah, it's a building issue, and I'm just thinking that through, because if the flood comes, I don't know how that propane tank is affixed to the concrete pad or what that looks like.
Okay.
I don't know what that looks like, so
well,
I'm a little.
Okay, it's something you want me to? I can look into. Because I think the majority of the property is in, unfortunately.
Yeah, I'm going back and forth through all your documents. Your whole property is in the flood zone.
Yeah.
So I don't know the answer to it, but I feel like we've had other projects where certain mechanical components had to be raised up. So I wonder about propane. I don't know the answer.
Okay, I can look into that and see. I didn't know, honestly.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I don't expect you to know everything.
But the extent of our responsibility is the pad a problem? Is that right?
Well, is the pad a problem, and is the propane sitting on it a problem?
Right.
In a flood. I don't think we need to lose sleep about it, because if it's allowed under the building code, then it's allowed, and our approval isn't going to trump the building department saying yes or no to that. So for us, it's the concrete pad.
Right. And I don't think we have a problem with the concrete pad on stilts, do we?
It wouldn't be concrete, I don't think. Anyway.
Is it going to be in the ground?
It would be, well, the pad would essentially be sitting on the surface of the ground. You know, I think it would, you know, I'm sure it would go under the soil a couple of inches, but, you know, but essentially it's just sitting on the surface.
Why don't we
put 3 foot by 3 foot square?
Yeah, why don't we put this portion of the proposal on hold and go on with the rest?
Okay. All right, so then let's see, the next thing we had was, so there is a willow tree that that I would like to either remove or hedge. So it's about 9 feet off of the deck, and we would like to either to remove the willow with the chainsaw down to the stump. The stump would be left, and what we would do is we would air layer one of the approximately a 5 foot branch from the willow tree, and it would be relocated so that it wouldn't be removed from the resource area as the terminus of the living hedge. And the existing willow that's off of the deck would not be cut down until we had 2 full growing seasons to ensure that that the transplant would survive. And with an alternative analysis of doing either just hedging the willow to 8 feet high, but ideally I'd like to have it with a continuing order to be able to be maintained at 8 feet. So that I wouldn't have to keep coming back, you know, once it would regrow. And then for mitigation for it, I wanted to plant 6 rhododendron viscosum, the swamp azaleas along. Those would be planted along the front of the front off of the deck. And it was identified. We did have, I spoke to a number of people. Willows are a little trickier. They really need a specialist to be able to identify them. So I spoke with a friend of mine, is the UMass Amherst herbarium curator, for an ID, and she sent it to 2 willow experts that both agreed that they believed it to be Salix bebiana, based off of the catkins that I photographed and sent to them this earlier this spring. Are there any questions?
Quick question on that. So it's if this air layer grows, then it's going to be transplanted. You said yes. To the edge of the living fence. Where is that on the plan? I'm a little confused about that.
So when you look on the plan, there's the blue, it's kind of this like aqua blue circle with a dot in the middle.
Yeah.
So the living fence is along the property line, are all those kind of like large, light green with dark green circles around. So the transplant area would be the terminus of this hedge. And the existing, it's a little odd because there really is, like, when you look at this site map, it looks like, you know, that the resource area, it's right up against the side of the deck, but there really is about like a 2.5 or 3 foot area that does not flood. That's off of that. So, you know, so it looks, when you're looking at it off of the site map, it does look kind of far out off of the deck, but it's much closer if you're there in person.
Okay, so this aqua blue bullseye is the location for the transplant?
Yeah, so the one that's off the deck is the location of the current willow that's there. And then the aqua bullseye that's along the property line would be where the transplant would be would be relocated.
Okay, thanks.
Mhm.
Are there any other questions about this portion?
It seems like a good idea to move that willow away from the deck, just from the sake of the deck. And you're keeping, I think I like this idea.
Okay, which idea, John? The original idea as opposed to the alternative?
The moving the willow to the end of the living fence.
Okay. Any other comments? All right, you want to go on to the next part of your proposal?
So, so let's see here. Okay, so then we have the home repairs. So it's pretty straightforward. We're not planning on expanding or changing anything there. The south and west side structural sills for the house will be replaced. We're going to replace all of the exterior siding and the plywood underneath. So the idea is that we would be removing all of the siding and the plywood and the insulation from the outside of the house, and then we would be replacing everything. We would replace 6 of the windows, and one with a proposal of the one window that would be on the south side that would be removed in order to accommodate for the outdoor shower. And there is currently a broken skylight with a broken seal. I would like to remove that and have 2 skylights put in its place, and they'll be putting in a new front door. So then as far as the insulation, they're going to do a closed cell, just spray insulation, and then, new plywood, tar paper, and new cedar shingles on the side. The house is currently skirted with a pressure treated lattice that's existing around the entire deck. And so what I would like to do is I would like to have that lattice also encompass underneath where the actual house is. And then I would like to place 1/4-inch hardware cloth on the inside of the lattice, just to prevent, because right now we're kind of battling some rodent issues, just to try to, hopefully with redoing the outside of the house and placing that chicken, that chicken wire under the house will help to kind of keep the little critters out.
Okay, I think our concern is, where is the debris going to be collected? Is it going to be removed from the site every day? No debris can be left in the buffer zone.
So most likely, I think the general idea is that outside of where the fencing is, there's quite a large area where we could place a dumpster, and then the debris could be placed in the dumpster and stored there until the project was completed, I think was the original idea, unless that's an issue.
Okay, is the dumpster shown on the plan?
No, the dumpster's not. It would, so the area where it would be is when you're looking at the actual site itself, along the gravel driveway, there's a little area where there's one fence panel that kind of zags back towards Route 6, and that the dumpster would be right on the other side of that fence. I mean, or the dumpster could be placed where the driveway extension is. I mean, that's an option too. It's just, it would just be closer.
Okay, we need you to select a location for the dumpster and to show that on your plan.
Okay.
And to indicate how the waste is going to be removed and when it's going to be removed.
Okay. Well, I think the plan, once we kind of tear everything off, and fill it up, then we would just call them, and the guys come down in a day or two and just remove the dumpster. It would just be as long as necessary to remove the actual debris.
Okay, we just need to know how long the dumpster is going to be there and where it's going to be.
And the location, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So what else?
You skipped over the outdoor shower.
Yeah,
So
we
yeah,
did
so
that.
the outdoor shower plan, if you look at, when you're looking at the deck itself, the area where the dry, originally we were talking about trying to do an outdoor shower kind of around the corner of the deck, but I know that that wasn't the, I guess you guys didn't really like that idea. So we moved it over an existing portion of the deck itself. So there wouldn't be any, there would not be any additional posts or anything, that any ground contact. It would all be floating over it. And the idea is that there would be a 48 by 48 inch catch basin that would collect all of the gray water, and then it would be diverted. The dry well that's actually directly below where the outdoor shower would be is already being installed to take care of the stormwater runoff for the west side of the house. So the outdoor shower, it's a 6 by 8 foot, I think is the size, the footprint. And then, you know, it would be constructed of untreated wood and you know, and I mean, are there any, hang on, I'm just reading through it. I mean, I don't know how much detail you guys want about it, but the decking inside the outdoor shower would be Ipe or mahogany decking, plumbing's copper. And they're planning on doing, I think it's 6 feet high for the walls, for the 2 walls. And the walls would actually be, we want to design them so that they're actually removable, so that the walls, the front wall and the back wall could actually would just be kind of not semi-temporary, but, you know, but would be able to be removed so that if we had to move furniture or anything onto the deck, it would be a little bit easier for us. And
don't we need to see this outside shower, at least in plan view on the plan?
Yes.
it is, yeah. So it might be a little tough to see. When you look at kind of the southwest.
Is it labeled on the plan? I see it on the southwest corner, I think, but it's just a little rectangle with no label.
Yes. Well, yes. Yeah. I mean, the key, I have it drawn out in the key on the upper left. It's just essentially the square with the outdoor shower. The dry wells and everything are the dark blue. So the circle on the dry, when you look at in the outdoor shower, there's kind of a navy blue circle. So that is the actual pipe that would connect from the 48 inch, the 48 catch basin would connect right there and then go into the dry well.
That dot, the location of the catch basin?
Yes, that dot is the location of the drain in the center of the catch basin.
So I'm not a fan of outdoor showers close to the wetland, as everybody knows, but we haven't prohibited it. So I think, you know.
I did make a number of phone calls about, about the water that would be going into the dry wells, and the dry wells that we chose were specifically designed for very shallow water tables, which is what I have. And so currently there's no stormwater runoff on for any of the existing buildings. So they have these things, they're called easy drain, prefabricated gravel-free trench dry well systems. And so they're 10 feet long and 15 feet wide sections that are buried. They can be buried just 6 inches below the surface, which is great because then we can, raise them up as high as possible. And there would be it's just barely under a 4 foot distance between the actual bottom of the dry well itself and the water table, which I think is the requirement, right? I think it's the requirement.
I'm just throwing this out so you know.
Yes.
When we redo our regulations, there is a very good chance we would prohibit this shower, but we haven't prohibited it. And so right now it's okay. If I were you, I would get it in.
Except that we want to see the catch basin or the dry well 5 feet from adjusted groundwater. So it's not, I don't have your septic plan in front of me, but we want to see it 5 feet above the adjusted groundwater, not the actual groundwater that was observed.
Okay. Well, the area that has that, I don't know what these, to be honest with you, these little numbers that they have set on the site plan, but it looks like it's floating about the 5.8 to 6. You know,
that's the elevation of the land, and you'd have to look at the septic plan to get the elevation of the water and the adjustment and calculate that. So I guess I'm struggling a little bit without seeing sort of a better plan view of what this thing actually is.
Okay. So what would you like for me to, because the question is who would I talk to be able to?
Well, number one, who's going to install it? Number two, is it engineered? Like, I don't know what it is that you're describing, short of reading these words on the page, but
I do have, if at the hang on, let's see. I think at the very bottom of the Word document, I included a number of photos, and they have at the very end, it's kind of a conceptual photo of a catch basin that they have, an outdoor shower with a catch basin, which would be pretty identical to what we would be installing. Is that what you mean, or would you want something more like with the septic plan that gives you more? So the catch drain itself, you know, there's a wood platform over the top of it, and then all of the water. I honestly made the catch basin way larger than it probably has to be, but I wanted to be able to make sure that, you know, it was 48 by 48 inches, so that there was, you know, everything was absolutely collected, and there wasn't any guy that was kind of splashing off to the side. I think the standard is you know, significantly smaller than that, but I wanted to try to do my part to be a little bit better.
I'm just going to say, for your sake, plumbing this with copper is expensive and it's not necessary.
Mm-hmm.
You can use plastic, it's code, and it'll save you a lot of money.
I do have, luckily, I have, you know, my cousin is a master plumber, and my brother-in-law is an electrician, and my dad is a contractor. So that's one of the reasons why we're able to do so many of these projects at such a cheap cost, which is why we're actually doing most of these projects, to be honest with you.
So we have a problem with the shower. Let's go on to the next part.
Okay. So hang on a second. So what else did I have on there? So the dry wells, do you guys have questions about I did a section on dry wells. They're all exactly the same. They're designed to be kind of a more shallow dry well that's installed. And there would be one for the shed, and then the house itself would have two. There would be one that would divert the front of the house towards where the mini split is on the north side, and then the back side of the house would divert into into the south side. And the outdoor shower we talked about. So I guess it's pretty much from here, it's the restoration for the side yard, right? Let's see. Fencing.
Can I just add one comment on the shower, just what I'm looking for? I'm looking for a sketch of what your dry well actually looks like, which I thought you said maybe in one of these pictures, but I can't find it. And okay. Also the elevation of the adjusted groundwater and where this thing is going to sit in your elevation scale.
Okay.
That's also relevant to the other dry well, I think, on the northeast corner.
Yes. Yes.
Because it looks, you know, just looking at land surface elevations, it looks like you don't have way more than 5 feet to groundwater. Yes. Maybe less.
Yes, but the septic, the area, I mean, those. Okay. Yes, I could definitely look into it, but I mean, the septic itself is pretty much flush with these other items. So like
The
when you
leach
look
field, the leach field is much higher. Your current leach field
Oh,
is much
that's true.
higher than
That's
these catch basins.
yes, you're right. I forgot. I forgot about the leach fields. All right, so I will look into that for you.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's go on to the next. Is the final thing the knotweed management?
Yeah, so I believe that that's pretty much all of our major projects. And then, so essentially for this knotweed management, the idea that we have is I designed a separate protocol for the herbicide management plan. So pretty much there's 3 separate areas that were being planned on doing. We decided that we were going to file the notice of intent for the 3187 property and see how all of this planned out before we took the time and resources to file we would be filing a separate notice of intent for the 3199. So the idea, Todd and I are working together to be able to remove the knotweed between the 2 properties that we have. So currently this knotweed, it's been here for many years. There's pretty much nothing underneath it. We've cut it down with just the jurisdictional review, I think twice. And so the area, the herbicide application area for my property would be approximately 1,200 square feet. It's outlined in maroon on the site map. So the areas that don't have a revegetation area that like kind of in the front along the side of the septic, those areas have grass underneath the knotweed. It's just the knotweed is just kind of taking over like it always does. So so the plan is, let's pull this up for you. So the management plans, I took a lot. I know that herbicides in general are just really not, they're kind of frowned upon. I know a lot of people, it's a very controversial topic. I did extensive research and I talked with a number of professionals to be able to design this herbicide protocol so that we absolutely reduced, the impacted areas. And so essentially, this was based off of a lot of state and conservation management plans. The herbicide that would be used is it's a Roundup Custom. It's a non-select weed and brush killer for aquatic and terrestrial use. It's a systemic herbicide with no residual soil activity. And then what we decided, originally we wanted to do originally we wanted to do stem injections, but stem injections use not only a lot of material as far as the actual herbicide, it also is very time consuming and expensive. And and then based off of the maximum allowance, we couldn't actually do stem injections with all of the knotweed. We would exceed the amount. We could only do about 107 stems between the 2 properties themselves before we would meet the maximum amount of herbicide. So it really kind of put a damper on our options. So the second option would be a foliar spray, which I didn't really like, but that's what the herbicide applicators recommended. So based on the label recommendations, it would be a 2% spray, wet solution. And what I looked into is there's actually a foaming agent that can be added to the foliar spray. So this would help to reduce any overspray to, non-select plants. And the foaming agent itself is, it's blue. It's it's a plant extract. It's a sugar and fatty alcohol. It's chosen for its superior biodegradability. And the blue colorant is just simply a food dye. So I chose that because it's, it seemed pretty environmentally friendly, at least. And like I said, the foam kind of helps with the overspray and kind of contain it. So what our plan is we would be treating the area. The knotweed would be cut down in June, which we already did, to the ground. And then the literature states that it would grow back about 2 to 5 feet, which is pretty true. It's about maybe 4 feet right now. And then we would do one single application at the very end of the season after the flowering, if we even get flowers. that, you know, when the knotweed is actually pulling all of its carbohydrates back into the rhizomes. So we would do one foliar spray, and then we would see how the next year, how the knotweed responded. So if the herbicide applicators, essentially their recommendations is that we do 3 foliar sprays a year, but the issue is that that's because of the, you know, to help to kind of hammer down the height of the foliage, which is ridiculous. It's not necessary to be doing additional applications if we can just go out there and just hand cut all of the knotweed down. It's kind of a pain in the butt, but that's what we did. And so we would do the 1 application in the fall, and then we would reassess the situation the next spring. If the, you know, a huge majority of the knotweed would come back, which we don't plan on it being an issue, then we would do a second application. So we would do in August and a September.
Okay, what we're going to need is a plan from a licensed herbicide applicator.
Okay.
That indicates what's going to be done and what chemicals are going to be used, and provides the material data safety sheets.
Okay. So I had a separate document for the protocol. So if the herbicide applicator, I can provide the safety, you know, the label.
We need it from the herbicide applicator because that's the person who's standing behind it. So we need someone to be responsible for it.
Okay, that's fine. I could definitely have him sign off on that for you and send you guys whatever you need.
Hillary, do we need any more than that?
I think we want to know who's doing the work. Do you have the pesticide applicator who's going to do the work, because we want their license signing off on this plan as being.
Yes, I do. I already had the herbicide applicator. Hang on, let me see if I have his paper. So the applicator, it would be the All Cape Weed Control. They come out of Dennisport, Mass. And he would be the one that would actually be doing the applications themselves.
Okay.
Have they given you an effective rate of how they think this will work, or?
So I spoke with him, and you know, we discussed. I sent him my protocols. That, I mean, you know, these protocols, these were created from conservation and state programs, and you know, I read through the different programs, like what they did, which ones were successful and things. And so I sent it to him and said, this was essentially what I would like to do. Is this something that you think would work, or would you make changes? And he said that that he didn't really see any issue with the protocols that, you know, in this herbicide protocols that I put together. So he was supposed to actually come today and be here for the meeting, but he sent me an email at 3 p.m. that he had some issues, and unfortunately wasn't able to attend. But I figured we would be able to kind of work through the questions and supplemental documentation that you need, and then move forward.
Yeah, we'll need a proposal signed off by him, indicating what he's going to do, what he's going to apply, how much he's going to apply.
Okay.
The material safety data sheets, his license number, that whole thing.
Okay. And do you know, I assume most herbicide applicators are familiar with what would be.
I don't know.
Okay, my question is, if work is going to be done on someone else's property, do we have documentation that that's allowable? And we need.
I mean, the indication was this time that the work would only be on Mr. Kelb's property.
Yes. Yeah. So what the thing is, I mean, to be honest with you, I assumed that this was going to be kind of a more controversial topic. So when I spoke with Todd, this is something that both of us are working together with, but you know, the notice of intent, it's very expensive to print all of the pages and everything and do all of the abutters notices. So I wanted to make sure that this is something that could be a possibility for my notice of intent before we went through and filed a second one, and then ended up with two projects that were just kind of dead in the water. You know what I mean?
That answered my question. Thank you.
And then the area that's outside both of the properties, which is part of the highway authority, that area specifically is, I think it's like 200 square feet of knotweed. That area would just be hand cut and seeded with grass indefinitely, and I guess hope for the best.
Okay, so it looks to me like we have issues with the following portions of your proposal.
Mm-hmm.
With the shower, we've described what we need in terms of a plan that shows us exactly what that is and where it's located. The dry wells, showing us exactly what they look like.
Yep.
The concrete pad, whether or not that can be placed on the ground. Okay. The dumpster placement and the timing of the dumpster.
Okay.
And the knotweed with the licensed herbicide applicator.
Okay.
I have a couple of other things on. I have a couple of other things on the knotweed.
Sure.
So it wasn't clear to me when I first read this about the foaming agent, but just to be sure, the foaming agent is the non-ionic surfactant.
Yes.
Okay. The other question is on the plan. The area, the actual treatment area is colored in purple. Is that right?
No. So if you look at the treatment area, it's a little tricky. It's the treatment area is, there's a little maroon outline. So you can see it, it kind of runs along kind of the north side. There's a very thin strip along where the fence is along the property line. And then it's essentially that entire side yard all the way to the property.
Oh,
so,
okay. All
so
right,
my portion, my portion is 1,200 square feet, and the neighbor's portion actually runs along the front of their house in resource area, and I think theirs is like 1,600 square feet. But that would be, we would submit that as a separate notice.
Okay, I see the area now. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else?
Well, I don't notice any silt fence and limit of work marked on the plans.
Yeah, so what I did is the silt fencing, I'm sorry, I kind of was running out of colors. You can see I was pretty, the silt fencing it's kind of a very light, kind of grayish purple. So you can see it run from about the middle portion of the deck. It kind of goes diagonal across the front yard, or that side yard, diagonal across the side yard towards the property line. And then on the south side, it comes off directly off of the very front of the fence and kind of goes around that south dry well, south-facing dry well, and then up, and then again, all the way to the property line.
I'm sorry, I don't see it on my list, but on the west side.
So on the north, so if you're looking at the actual home itself, right? There's the house and the deck itself. So right. If you look at the north side of the deck, there's kind of a gray line that cuts through all of the restoration plantings, that kind of cuts through the restoration plantings sort of diagonal towards the property line between 3199 and 3187. So that is where the silt fencing itself would be located. Do you see it? And then again, the same thing on the south, when you're looking at the actual deck and you're looking south from the house itself, it comes directly off the front of the deck, and then it kind of runs pretty much goes straight back to the property line along Route 6. But there's one area where there's a little V where the dry well is being installed.
Okay, I think the problem for me is that the silt fence should include all the area that's being altered. Mm-hmm. Nothing can be outside the silt fence that's being altered.
Okay. So you want the silt fence along the edge of the resource area? The side yard is just, they would just be doing it's just the vegetation reconstruction with all
Right,
of
but
the
you
all
need
of the
the silt fence
construction.
around that.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
I said you need the silt fence around that.
Okay.
Yeah, if you're taking off siding, there's going to be bits and pieces of it that are going to be floating into the resource.
Yes. Well, those areas, see, it was a little tricky because the area where the actual house is, right? The house is up on stilts. So the decking that's against the house, if you were tearing off siding on the west side or the south side, that's going to be all contained on the actual deck itself. So silt fencing, like putting silt fencing off of along the, between the west side deck and the resource area, like visually on a map, it would make sense. But if anything was blowing off of the deck, it's going to blow. I mean, there's probably a 7-foot drop. So that area is it would just blow directly off of the decking. So, I mean, I guess I could can I put silt fencing along like the railing of the deck, I guess would help contain it. It's kind of honestly, I was trying to figure out a design thing. I mean, I have the silt fencing along the west side where I have grass, and I have it along the north side. So it would contain in theory, if there was any siding that, that had fallen to the ground and was blowing towards the resource area, the silt fencing would contain all of that. It's just that tricky spot along, the actual decking. We really don't, we're not really planning on being that destructive. I mean, we're going to try to be as respectful as possible.
Can we just put the silt fence along the resource area line? I mean, yeah. I don't think we need to talk about it at such great length. Let's just put it in, and I think it would serve you well.
Okay.
I was gonna suggest that because I assume you're planting. It shows a planting all this swamp azalea along the base of the deck on the west side of the house.
Yes.
So any of that excavation could cause soil to flow into the wetlands. So Hillary's right. Why not put the silt fence just downhill of all of that?
Okay, so you just want the silt fencing across the entire property line from one side all the way across to the other, right? Along this resource line. Is that the idea?
It's not the property line. It's the wetland edge.
Well, yes, that's what I mean. The bordering vegetation.
Right.
Okay, I could do that. Absolutely.
Okay, so what do we want to do with this? I think there's too much that needs to be done for us to approve it and then have changes submitted to Hillary because they're minor. I think we need to see it again. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Do you understand what we want from you, Mr. Kelb?
Yes, so I have, just to recap, so for the propane tank, you wanted to see if it could be placed on the ground and if there would be an issue because it's within the flood zone. The dumpster plan, you want to know how long the dumpster will be there, the timing, and the location of the actual dumpster itself.
And
the outdoor tower, you want to see it engineered with a drywall sketch to see how the water would go and an elevation for adjusted groundwater. And the herbicide applicator plan, you want the proposal, how much herbicide would be used with the license and
right, we want that proposal submitted by the licensed person.
Okay, and okay.
And your shower, we need a better description in terms of location and size.
I'm going to propose something that you can vote me down. I propose that we accept this and that he clear all these issues up with Hillary. I don't think it needs to come back with us. That I make that motion. You can vote it down, but I just want to make that motion.
Is there a second?
All right, defeated on lack of a second.
All right, so you're going to need to come back. And if you have any questions, you should really talk to Hillary or Doug so that we can get this wrapped up.
Okay, all right. All right, well, I will work diligently to get that information to you.
All right, so do we need a motion to continue or it's just continued?
We need a motion.
All right, could I have a motion to continue this, please?
So moved. Barbara?
Is there a second?
I second.
Need a voice vote. Ben?
Right, when are we continuing it to?
When's your next meeting? Next Wednesday? The Wednesday after?
No, September 2nd.
September 2nd? Then that's when I will be here.
Okay, so it's continued till September 2nd. We need a voice vote. Ben, how do you vote?
Yes.
John Kumbler?
Staying.
John Portnoy?
Yes.
Leon?
Yes.
Michael?
Abstain because the trust is on a butter.
Barbara?
And could we just have the portions of this that we haven't hashed through already?
Yes.
I don't see why we would need to hash through the whole thing.
Okay. Sure, of
How
course.
do you vote, Barbara?
Yes.
And Debbie, yes. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. The remaining matters are 5 certificates of compliance. The first is Downs 46 Sandpiper Hill Road, map 22, parcel 6, certificate of compliance. Is there anyone here for that? Hillary, have you been out to see Downs?
Yep, this is an old notice of intent from 2003. It was to demo a dwelling and a guest house and construct a new dwelling. And we do have a letter from an attorney, and we did hear from the contractor, and David LaJoy did a number of the work as well. And they all said that it was done in compliance, and we don't have any record of anything other than that.
Okay.
Has anyone inspected this except hearing from David?
Yeah, we inspected the septic way back when, and we were out on the site way back when looking at the dwelling. So there's no no violation in the file.
The septic thing that we're signing, I hate to sign off for things that I don't know what I'm signing off for.
Yeah, no, we have records of site visits and construction permits and all of that from 2003.
I was out there yesterday, and I'm not knowing what it was that we were looking at. Everything seemed fine.
Thank you, Michael. That helps me.
All right. Could we have a motion on Downs, please?
I move that we approve the certificate of compliance for Downs at 46 Sandpiper Hill Road.
Second, Michael.
Okay. We need a voice vote. Barbara?
Okay.
John Portnoy?
Yes.
John Kumbler?
Where do you go?
I don't know.
He's
Ben?
muted.
Yes. Yes.
John Kumbler, yes. Ben, yes. Mike Fisher?
Yes.
Leon?
Yes.
Debbie, yes. That's all set. The next one is Elliott, 3 Indian Neck Road, map 28, parcel 231, certificate of compliance. Is anyone here for that?
Yep. Yep. Me and my wife, Patty.
Okay. Do you want to tell us about what's been happening there?
So it is an open order of conditions. We actually knocked down a dwelling and rebuilt a house back in 2007, 2008, and we didn't realize that this was still open. It's been a long time off, and we're just coming to get the certificate of compliance.
Okay. Was there any issue with the structure when it was built?
No.
Okay. Hillary, have you or Doug been out to see the structure?
We've been out to this site. It is in compliance with the order. The walkway was never built that was proposed, and the driveway was constructed so that the leach area wasn't driven over, but it is in compliance. And I think you can go ahead and issue that.
Okay, could I have a motion?
So moved, Barbara.
Is there a second?
Leon seconds.
All right, we need a voice vote. Leon, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
John Kumbler? I can't hear you.
Still muted.
Yes.
John Portnoy?
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
Debbie? Yes. You're all set.
I would like to just ask, we are closing on the property on Friday. Will we get all paperwork that we need for that in time for that?
Friday, like tomorrow Friday or next Friday?
This Friday coming.
If the signatures get in, I can get the paperwork done.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Hey, Hillary, would we contact you for the close certificate of compliance?
Nope, I don't. I'm not back in the office until next Wednesday, so it's going to be between Chris Bates, the commissioners, and you. So it can't be issued until we have all the signatures.
Okay. Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Great. And Chris, do we have an email, or how would we contact you to get this?
You're going to need the original. The original has to be recorded at the registry, so you need to wait until we have the signatures, and then she'll collate the formal paperwork. I'm worried that you might not have it by Friday because it's Wednesday night now, and Chris, I don't know when you plan on being in the office. If you think you can get to it, wonderful and great, but I don't want to stress you out by.
I am planning on working early Friday morning so I can get these certificates out, assuming I get the signature pages from the commissioners. And I would have it ready in the afternoon.
What time is the closing?
I don't think that's been determined yet.
Yeah, it won't be ready until at least 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
Okay.
And that would be something we would physically pick up?
It could be picked up at the DPW building.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Perfect. Okay, thank you so much.
Appreciate
Thanks,
it.
everyone.
All right, the next two certificates of compliance are for Sandy Shoes, 135 High Meadow Road, map 12, parcel 131. I don't know which two certificates of compliance these are. Hillary, can you help us with that?
I can't help you with that because there's nothing identifying on the agenda, but Jeremy is here and he can work with us, and the homeowner's here as well.
Okay. Jeremy, do you want to tell us what the two are? And first, before you talk, I was over there today and I wanted to tell you that the plantings look great. The only issue I saw with the plantings was where the stairs used to be. It looked like there was some dead bearberry in there, probably from the drought, but otherwise it looks terrific.
Thank you. I don't know.
So, Jerry, do you know which two certificates of compliance we're dealing with?
He's still muted.
Hello?
Hi, Jeremy.
Hey, Hillary. These are the two, we're looking to complete the two certificate of compliances for the mitigation planting, for the older steps, and then also the second one would be for the view quarter.
Okay.
This is per David's no longer on and with us, but this is David did send a letter to the commission on July 27th.
Okay, I haven't seen the letter. Hillary, do you have the letter?
I don't have it in front of me, but he did state that it was in compliance, and I know a number of us have been out there a number of times. I think, you know, we all saw the rocks going away. We saw the replanting. We saw the view quarter. I guess I would just put out there, is there any value in keeping the view quarter one open? For a year or two, just to sort of monitor it out there in case you need to do more work.
The other question I had is, do we have a survival rate for the plants? And if we do we have to keep it open to allow for the survival rate?
We usually would keep it open for the full 3 years to make sure that the vegetation survives. So I think, you know, I guess I wonder why you want to close that one right now.
You gave us a 70% survival rate. And I myself, with my company, I warranty all the plantings for 1 year. I do plan on returning next month in September. There's 2 bayberry, and then there's a group in the ravine where the boulder steps were of bearberry that did not make it. There is 5,000 feet of drip on that back hillside, believe it or not. And I did what I could with irrigation, but unfortunately, that week of extreme heat just didn't let the plants take it.
Is there, I guess what I'm in agreement with Hillary is there any reason to do this now? Can we delay to be sure that the plants survive and that the view corridor doesn't grow back quite rapidly so that you want to go in again?
Our only thinking was just, you know, we did follow all the guidelines with the town and, you know, move right along on this. And that was our only thinking, just kind of close it out.
I mean, I'm encouraged that they're here to close it out because sometimes these things go on forever. I would recommend we close out the steps because that one's done, and we leave open the view corridor for at least another year just to monitor the plants.
That's fine.
Wasn't there another project of the same site for this gravel under the porch?
Yeah, that was an RDA. That's separate.
That's different, right?
So it would behoove the owner to leave the corridor open so they wouldn't have to open a new NOI.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That makes sense. Doesn't sound like there's no downside.
But I think we can agree that the steps have been removed.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And close that one out.
Put that behind us.
Okay, so is there a motion?
Well, wait, Debbie, what about there was a pending fine? Does that just go away?
That was suspended.
Well, if we give the certificate of compliance, does that close down the suspension?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't think we need to contemplate a fine at this point. We've come a long way. I think it took us a bit to get on track, but I don't think we need to have any more fines issued here.
Take this with me.
You need help? I can help you.
No, I can do. I know what I need to do. I'll just start this. Can't believe this.
Just my thoughts. I think we can issue the certificate of compliance. They complied in good faith. It's been a long road and the property's looking good. I would ask that you issue the certificate of compliance for the stair removal.
Would I have a motion on the stair removal certificate of compliance?
I move that we approve it.
Is there a second?
Second, John Crumbler.
Okay, John Crumbler, how do you vote?
Yes.
John Portnoy?
Yes.
Leon?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Ben?
Yes.
Barbara? We lost Barbara. Debbie?
Yes. Yes. Why am I not here?
We hear you.
Okay. So that on the other certificates of compliance, do we want to wait on those, on the planting and on the view corridor?
I think we should.
Jeremy, do you understand we're not saying that you didn't do exactly what was required? We're just saying give it the time both to benefit you and to benefit us, so that if there's any issue with the survival or with a need to go back in and trim for the view corridor, you don't have to reopen a new proceeding.
Okay. Yeah, we can
That makes
leave
sense.
it. We can leave it open for the view quarter, we did plant the 12 eastern red cedars, as you can see at the base. I don't really see any future pruning back there for at least 5 years, but you know, we can leave it open.
Okay.
Because you are going to replace the dead bearberry and so on, right?
The bearberry and bayberry would be part of the notice of intent that was filed for the stone steps.
And we just issued that certificate, so that's done.
I mean, the amount that unfortunately didn't make it, I would estimate it at 5%. And that was strictly related to the heat.
And you're going to be out there fixing that, you said?
In September, yes.
Okay. So is that acceptable if we just wait and continue the others?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll continue that indefinitely?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, could I have a motion to continue that indefinitely?
Well, when would you suggest us close those out? Yeah. Not the view, but for the planting, you know, indefinite, you know, what's the timeliness that we should revisit this, just so we know?
What I would say is 2 years. That way you'll know if the plants have grown in.
Okay.
And that way you can certainly close it out then.
Okay.
Good for 3 years. I mean, if you want to wait 3 years, that's fine, but it gives you some time to make sure that everything is okay.
Okay, just what I wanted to know. Thank you.
Okay, could I have a motion to continue that indefinitely?
Do we have to continue it, or is it just?
We can just not issue it and they'll come back and they'll apply again.
Then we don't need a motion. All right, then you're all set on Sandy Shoes. Then McLeod 46.
So so we don't sign that sheet, right?
No, do not sign that sheet.
Okay.
So there are 2 Sandy Shoes sheets. Sandy Shoes sheets.
Only sign one.
Sign one. Okay. All right, then the last hearing is McLeod 46 Springbrook Road, map 47, parcel 25, certificate of compliance. Is there anyone here for that?
Just me.
Okay.
So this is a certificate. This is a certificate of compliance for a project that they removed a porch and constructed an addition on a full foundation. We have been out to the site. Debris, we had ordered debris to be removed at that time, and debris was removed, and they did submit a revegetation plan and carried that out as well. We also have a letter from Ryder and Wilcox certifying that the construction was in compliance with the approved plan. So I think we can go ahead and issue this one.
Okay, could I have a motion?
So move.
Second, Barbara.
All right, we need a voice vote. Barbara?
Yes.
Leon?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Ben?
Yes.
John Kumbler?
Yes.
John Portnoy?
Yes.
Debbie? Yes. Okay. Then we need a motion to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn.
Wait, I have
moved.
I have a quick question about what we're signing. Just to confirm, we're signing every certificate of compliance except for one of the Sandy Shoes, and
and not Kelp either.
Not Kelp.
Not Kelp.
And if you make a mistake, it's okay because Chris will collate the right ones where they need to go. So.
And we're not signing Van Cleve either, or we did approve that.
We did.
We did. Just confirming. Okay.
All right. So, do we need a voice vote for the adjournment?
I didn't get who adjourned.
John Kumbler.
Thank you.
Oh.
Who seconded?
I don't know.
I'll second it. Leon second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
We're adjourned. Thank you guys so much.
Happy trails, everybody.
Thanks, Debbie.
Yeah, well, there's this one.
Oh, my goodness.